The battlefield was silent now. Only smoke moved in the wind. The ground was full of broken weapons, destroyed machines, and bodies of soldiers who had fought until the last breath. Captain Ryan Carter walked carefully through the ruins, his rifle in hand, his eyes sharp. He was used to death, he was used to war, but today something felt different. He stopped when he heard a sound, a very soft sound, almost like a whisper. It was not human, it was something strange but also full of pain. Ryan followed the sound, step by step, moving past fire and shadows. Then he saw her. She was lying near a collapsed wall, her body half hidden under broken stones. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly under the gray smoke. Her armor was torn and broken, strange alien symbols still shining on the chest plate. Her eyes, golden and bright, looked at him with both fear and hope. Ryan understood at once. She was not a normal soldier. The crown-shaped symbol told him everything. She was royalty, an alien princess, and right now she was dying. Her leg was injured, her armor systems sparking and useless. When she saw him, she flinched. He was human, and humans were feared in this part of the galaxy. Stories called them predators, dangerous survivors who destroyed anything that stood against them. But the princess did not scream. She did not try to crawl away. Instead, she whispered in a weak voice, "Please, help me." Ryan froze. Every part of his soldier training told him not to trust an alien. But her voice was soft, broken, and desperate. He lowered his rifle slowly and knelt beside her. Her armor was advanced but shattered, strange gears and wires bent like broken bones. She tried to fix it with her hands, but her strength was fading. Ryan opened his pack and pulled out his toolkit. He was not only a fighter, he was also a mechanic. On many battlefields, he had repaired human machines under fire. But now, for the first time, he was about to repair alien technology. The princess looked at him with wide eyes, her lips trembling. "Why?" she asked in a shaking voice. "Why would a human help me? My people do not trust yours." Ryan gave a small smile as he held a glowing tool near her armor. "I don't serve anyone," he answered calmly, "but I don't leave people to die." He worked quickly, connecting wires and adjusting circuits. The alien armor fought back against his touch, strange energy sparking and buzzing. But Ryan was steady, patient, and focused. Minutes felt like hours. Every second was dangerous. Enemy patrols could appear at any moment, and if they saw her alive, both of them would be killed. The princess studied him as he worked. She had heard humans were brutal, selfish, and cruel. But the man in front of her was different. He had strong hands, scarred face, tired eyes, but there was also kindness, a rare kind of courage. And she wondered if the galaxy had judged his kind too quickly. Finally, Ryan connected the last piece. There was a spark and a soft glow. The alien armor hummed back to life, the systems repairing themselves under his work. The princess gasped as strength returned to her body. She stood slowly, testing her leg, then turned to him, her golden eyes shining with something new. "You are no longer just a human to me," she whispered. "You are my consort." Ryan blinked, confused. "Consort? What does that even mean to you?" The princess gave a faint smile, her voice still weak but steady. "In my people's tradition, a consort is the one chosen to stand beside royalty, no matter the danger." The words hit Ryan harder than any weapon. He had only wanted to save her life, but now he had stepped into something greater. The fate of her people, and maybe the fate of the galaxy, was now linked to him. Above them, the sky rumbled with thunder as enemy ships circled closer. Ryan picked up his rifle and gave her a quick grin. "Looks like your consort has work to do," he said. And together, side by side, they prepared for the storm that was about to fall. The sky above the ruined city was alive with fire. Enemy ships circled like hungry predators, their searchlights cutting through smoke and ash. Every beam of light was a threat. Every shadow could hide soldiers waiting to kill. Ryan stayed low, his rifle steady, his eyes watching every corner. Beside him, the princess moved slowly, her repaired armor glowing faint blue. She leaned on him when her steps grew weak, but her spirit remained strong. Her golden eyes kept scanning the darkness, searching for danger. "Your enemies are close," Ryan whispered, his voice calm but sharp. The princess nodded, her silver hair catching what little light remained. "They will hunt me until my last breath," she said quietly. "I'm a last heir. If I die, my people's line dies with me." Her words carried a heavy weight. Ryan was only a soldier, a mechanic, a man who had survived too many wars. But now he carried something far greater, the future of an alien kingdom. They moved through the ruins together, past burned buildings and shattered statues. The silence was broken only by the distant thrum of ships and the hiss of fire. Ryan's every step was calculated, his instincts guiding him. The princess followed, trusting him more with every moment. But the enemy was not blind. From the shadows came the sound of heavy boots. The glow of strange weapons appeared in the smoke. Soldiers of her enemy stepped forward, their armor dark and sharp, their eyes glowing red. Ryan pulled the princess behind cover and aimed his rifle. His heart was steady. He had fought worse odds before. The enemy shouted in their alien tongue, their voices harsh and cruel. The princess understood their words, her face tightening with fear. "They say they will take my body, dead or alive," she whispered. "They want proof that the heir is gone." Ryan's grip tightened on his weapon. "Not going to happen," he said simply. The fight came fast, a storm of light and sound. Laser fire tore through stone. Explosions shook the ruins. Ryan fired back with deadly precision, every shot hitting its mark. But there were too many. The princess raised her hand, her armor glowing brighter. Strange energy pulsed from her palm, forming a shield of golden light. The enemy blast struck it and scattered, the air vibrating with power. Ryan glanced at her in shock, but she only whispered, "This is the gift of my bloodline." Together they fought, human steel and alien light. Enemies fell one by one, but more kept coming. Ryan's rifle grew hot, his body aching, yet he did not stop. The princess stood at his side, her shield protecting them both. At last, silence returned, the ground littered with fallen soldiers. The princess lowered her hand, her body shaking from the effort. Ryan caught her before she collapsed. "You're burning yourself out," he said, his voice softer now. She looked at him, her golden eyes glowing faintly even in exhaustion. "You fight for me as if you were born to it," she whispered. Ryan gave a tired smirk. "Maybe I was just waiting for the right reason." They rested in the shadows of a broken tower. The night stretched long, the danger never far. Ryan cleaned his rifle while the princess repaired small cracks in her armor. In the quiet, she spoke again, her voice steady despite her weakness. "My people will never believe a human saved their princess. They see humans as destroyers." She paused, her gaze fixed on him, "But I have seen the truth. You are my consort, and with you, I may still reclaim what is lost." Ryan didn't answer at once. The word consort still echoed in his mind. It was more than a title. It was a bond, a promise, a chain that tied his fate to hers. He had not chosen it, yet now it felt impossible to escape. Dawn began to rise, painting the sky with red and gold. But with the light came danger. From the horizon, more enemy ships descended, their shadows long and dark. The war was not over. This was only the beginning. Ryan stood, rifle in hand, and looked at the princess. "If we're going to survive this," he said firmly, "we need to find your people, the ones still alive." The princess nodded slowly, her face pale, but her eyes burning with determination. "Yes," she whispered, "and when we do, they must see you for what you are, not a monster, not a predator, but the man who stood with me when no one else did." The ruins shook as the enemy closed in. Ryan took a deep breath, the weight of destiny heavy on his shoulders. He was no longer just a soldier, no longer just a mechanic. He was the consort of an alien princess, and the galaxy would soon learn what that truly meant. The morning sun rose over the ruins, its light falling on broken towers and shattered streets. Ryan and the princess moved quickly, staying in the shadows, every step chosen with care. Above them, enemy ships circled like hawks, their searchlights sweeping across the ground. If they were found now, there would be no second chance. Ryan carried his rifle ready, his eyes always searching for danger. Beside him, the princess walked with determination, even though her armor was cracked and her body weak. Her golden eyes burned with quiet fire. She was a princess without a throne, hunted by enemies who wanted her dead. And yet she carried herself with pride. "We need to leave this city," Ryan said in a low voice. "They'll send more soldiers here soon. We can't stay." The princess nodded, her voice soft but firm. "There is an outpost to the east. If we reach it, there might still be loyal guards, or at least supplies." The path was dangerous. Collapsed bridges, destroyed vehicles, and burned-out shelters blocked their way. Sometimes Ryan had to lift heavy debris for the princess to pass. Sometimes she used her glowing energy to create a shield when falling rubble threatened them. Slowly, step by step, they moved forward. But the silence did not last. From the ruins came a strange humming sound, low and mechanical. Ryan froze, holding up his hand. The princess tensed, her eyes narrowing. The sound grew louder until shapes appeared. Enemy drones, floating above the rubble. Their red eyes scanned the ground, their weapons glowing. "Stay low," Ryan whispered, pushing the princess behind a broken wall. The drones moved closer, scanning the area with beams of light. Ryan aimed carefully, but he knew shooting would bring more. The princess leaned close, whispering, "If they see us, they will call the hunters." Ryan's mind raced. He pulled a small device from his pack, an old human jammer. It wasn't strong, but maybe it could blind the drones long enough. He pressed the button, and the air buzzed. The drones twitched, their red eyes flickering, their scans failing. "Now," Ryan said, grabbing the princess's hand. They ran through the ruins, slipping past the confused machines. For a moment, it felt like they had escaped. But fate was never that kind. One of the drones rebooted and let out a sharp alarm. A piercing sound filled the air, echoing through the ruins. The princess gasped. "The hunters will hear that." Ryan tightened his grip on his rifle, his jaw set. "Then we keep moving. No stopping now." They ran through the broken city, the alarm still screaming behind them. Enemy soldiers would be coming soon, and every second mattered. Ryan's lungs burned, but he didn't slow down. The princess kept pace, though her steps grew heavy. She was strong, but she was still wounded. Finally, they reached the edge of the ruins. Beyond lay a wide plain of scorched earth, with the outpost barely visible in the distance. It looked far, too far, but it was their only hope. Ryan scanned the horizon, his instincts warning him. They were not alone. From the smoke behind them came armored figures. The hunters, tall and cruel, their black armor marked with blood-red symbols. They carried long blades and plasma rifles, their movements silent and deadly. The princess's voice trembled. "These are not normal soldiers. These are assassins. They will not stop until I am dead." Ryan's eyes hardened. "Then we don't let them get close," he said simply. He raised his rifle and fired, the blast echoing across the plain. The hunters moved fast, dodging the shots within human speed. One of them leapt forward, his blade cutting through the air. Ryan blocked with the butt of his rifle, sparks flying. The princess raised her hand, golden light flashing as she pushed another hunter back with a wave of energy. The fight was brutal, close, and desperate. Ryan moved like a man with nothing left to lose, every strike precise, every shot deadly. But the hunters were strong, their blades sharp, their training perfect. The princess stood beside him, her shield of light protecting them both. Yet every use of her power drained her further. At last, Ryan managed to land a killing shot on one of the hunters. The creature fell, its armor smoking. The others paused, their glowing eyes studying him. This human was not like the ones they had heard of. This one was dangerous. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, his voice cold. "You are a fool, human. Do you think saving her will change anything? She is already lost." Ryan wiped the blood from his face and smirked. "Funny thing about humans," he said, "we don't give up so easily." Before the hunters could strike again, a deep rumble shook the ground. From the east, engines roared, alien vehicles approaching. The princess gasped, her eyes wide. "They're not hunters, those are my people." Ryan turned, seeing armored carriers rushing toward them, marked with the royal crest. Hope surged in the princess's eyes for the first time since the battle began. The hunters hissed in anger, retreating into the shadows. They had lost their chance, but Ryan knew they would return. As the carriers stopped, alien guards rushed out, bowing before the princess. She stood tall despite her weakness, her voice strong. "I live," she declared, "and I am not alone." Her gaze fell on Ryan, and she spoke louder. "This human is my consort. He saved me when all hope was gone. From this day, his fate is tied to mine." The guards looked at Ryan with shock, confusion, even suspicion, but none dared to question her. Ryan felt the weight of her words once more. He was no longer just a soldier lost in another war. He was part of something larger, something that would change the galaxy. And in the shadows, far away, the hunters watched and whispered. The war was only beginning, and the human would soon learn what it truly meant to be chosen by an alien princess. The carriers rolled across the plain, their engines heavy and loud. Ryan sat inside one of them, his rifle across his lap, his eyes never resting. The princess sat beside him, her golden eyes glowing faintly, her body still weak, but her spirit unbroken. Around them, alien guards whispered quietly, glancing at the human with suspicion. They did not understand why their princess sat so close to him. They did not understand why she called him consort. To them, he was an outsider, a predator from a feared species. But she looked at him with quiet trust, and that trust silenced them. Hours passed until the carriers stopped. When the doors opened, Ryan saw what remained of her kingdom. The once great city of towers and crystal domes was now a wasteland. Buildings were reduced to ashes, statues shattered, streets filled with wreckage. The air smelled of smoke, death, and betrayal. The princess stepped down first, her legs trembling but her head held high. Ryan followed, his rifle ready. Alien survivors gathered, their faces filled with shock as they saw her alive. They bowed deeply, whispering her name, calling her the last flame of hope. But when their eyes fell on Ryan, the whispers changed. A human, walking with their princess, carrying her trust. Fear spread among them. Some stepped back as if he carried a disease. Others muttered words Ryan couldn't understand, but the tone was clear. Suspicion. The princess raised her hand, her voice strong. "This man saved me when all others failed," she declared. "He stood against the hunters. He repaired my broken armor. He gave me life when death was certain." Her eyes swept over her people, sharp as steel. "He is my consort, chosen by me, bound to me." The crowd gasped, shock spreading like fire. Ryan felt their stares, heavy and sharp. He had fought many battles, but none felt as tense as this moment. The princess placed her hand on his arm, a gesture of protection and defiance. "This human is under my shield. To question him is to question me." Slowly, the crowd lowered their heads. They obeyed her, though their fear remained. Ryan understood then. He had not only saved her life, he had stepped into the heart of an alien kingdom. And that kingdom did not trust him. Inside the palace ruins, the princess led him through broken halls, once filled with light, now silent and dark. She stopped before a cracked throne, its crystal edges blackened by fire. "This was my father's seat," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They killed him here, and they will come for me next." Ryan looked at her, his voice steady. "Then we make sure they fail." The princess turned, her golden eyes burning with determination. My enemies are strong, and they control the council. They will not accept a human at my side. But if you stand with me, I can challenge them. Before Ryan could answer, a deep horn echoed across the ruins. The guards rushed in, their faces pale. My princess, the council has arrived, one of them said, his voice full of tension. They demand to see you immediately. Ryan tightened his grip on his rifle. He had faced enemies on battlefields, but this was different. This was politics, power, and ancient traditions he did not understand. The princess stood tall, brushing the dust from her broken armor. Then let them come, she said, her voice hard. They will see that I live, and they will see who stands at my side. Moments later, the council entered. Tall figures dressed in long robes of dark silk, their faces hidden behind jeweled masks. Their eyes glowed faintly behind the masks, cold and full of judgment. They bowed stiffly to the princess, but their words were sharp. You survived, High One, yet you bring this human. Ryan felt their eyes pierce him like blades. He did not flinch, but he could feel the weight of their hatred. The princess raised her chin proudly. Yes, she said firmly, this human is my consort. The council chamber fell silent. Then one of them spoke, his voice like ice. Unacceptable. A predator cannot sit beside our bloodline. This is an insult to our people. Ryan's hand drifted to his rifle, but the princess placed her hand over his, stopping him. Her voice rang like steel. This is no insult. This is survival. While you hid behind walls, he fought the hunters. While you counted the dead, he saved the living. The council muttered in anger, their masks reflecting the firelight. Finally, the eldest among them stepped forward. Then let the test decide, he said, his tone sharp. If the human wishes to stand at your side, he must prove himself. If he fails, his blood will stain our ground. Ryan looked at the princess, his jaw tight. She met his gaze, her golden eyes full of both fear and pride. Do not agree, she whispered. They want you dead. But Ryan smirked faintly, his voice calm. Guess it's time I show them what humans can really do. The council spread their hands, the room echoing with ancient chants. The test had been chosen, the fate of the human consort sealed. Ryan stood ready, his heart steady, his eyes cold. Whatever the trial was, he would face it, not only for himself, but for the princess who had called him more than just human. The council chamber was silent, the air heavy with tension. Ryan stood in the center, his rifle across his back, his hands steady at his sides. The masked counselors watched him with cold eyes, waiting for him to show weakness. The princess stood behind him, her face calm, but her hands clenched. The human wishes to be consort, the eldest counselor said slowly. Then let him face the trial of fire. If he survives, the bond is accepted. If he fails, his body will feed the ashes of this palace. The guards stepped forward, leading Ryan and the princess into the courtyard. The ground was marked with ancient carvings, circles glowing faintly with energy. At the far side stood a massive gate, its surface covered in molten patterns. The air burned hot, the stones trembling under a hidden power. The princess whispered quickly, her voice sharp with worry. This is no simple trial. It is a test of spirit, strength, and loyalty. My ancestors used it to prove warriors worthy of command, but no outsider has ever survived it. Ryan gave a faint grin, though his eyes never left the burning gate. Good thing I'm not like other outsiders, he muttered. The council raised their hands, chanting in a language Ryan could not understand. The gate split open with a roar, and a storm of heat poured out. Beyond lay a chamber filled with fire, smoke, and shadows that moved like living beasts. Ryan stepped forward without hesitation. The princess reached for his arm, her golden eyes wide. You don't have to prove yourself to them, she whispered. Ryan looked at her, his voice steady. I'm not proving myself to them. I'm proving myself to you. The gate sealed shut behind him. The trial had begun. Inside, the air was heavy with smoke. Every breath burned his lungs. The ground was cracked, rivers of molten rock cutting across his path. From the shadows came creatures of fire, their bodies glowing red, their eyes sharp as blades. They circled him, snarling, their heat making the metal of his rifle too hot to hold. Ryan dropped the rifle and pulled his knife. He had fought in jungles, deserts, and frozen wastelands. But this was something else. The creatures leapt, claws sharp, bodies burning. Ryan rolled aside, his knife flashing, cutting through one of them. It burst into sparks, vanishing into smoke. More came, faster, stronger. Ryan fought with everything he had, his body moving on instinct. Every strike of his blade cut through fire. Every dodge brought him closer to exhaustion. His skin burned, his lungs screamed, but he did not stop. Above the trial chamber, the council watched from hidden windows. The princess stood apart, her heart pounding. She wanted to rush in, to help him, but she knew it would dishonor him. Her golden eyes never left his figure, fighting alone in the flames. Ryan stumbled, a claw cutting across his arm. Blood mixed with ash, his strength fading. The creatures closed in, their fire blinding. But then his mind went still, his soldiers' focus sharpening. He remembered every battle, every time death had been inches away. And he pushed forward, roaring with fury, his blade cutting through the last of them. The chamber shook, the flames rising higher. In the center of the room, a pillar of light appeared. Inside the light floated a crystal crown, glowing gold. Ryan understood this was the heart of the trial. To claim it meant victory, to fail meant death. His steps were heavy, his body broken, but he moved forward. Each step on the burning ground sent waves of pain through his body. The fire licked at his skin, but he pushed on. With a final effort, he reached the crown and pulled it free. The flames roared, then died. The chamber turned cold, the smoke clearing. Ryan stood there, bloody and scarred, the crown in his hands. The gate opened again, and he stepped out. The council gasped, their masked faces turning in shock. The princess ran to him, her voice breaking. "You survived." Ryan handed her the crown, his hands shaking, but his eyes calm. "Think this means I passed," he said with a tired smirk. The eldest counselor stepped forward, his voice slow and heavy. "The human has done the impossible. He has survived the trial of fire. By ancient law, he is consort to the princess. We cannot deny it." The guards bowed low. The survivors whispered in awe. Some looked at Ryan with respect, others with fear, but none dared to question him now. The princess placed her hand gently on his chest, her golden eyes shining with pride. "You are not only my consort," she said softly. "You are my protector, my shield, my chosen." Ryan looked at her, tired but unbroken. "Guess I'm stuck with you then," he said. But in the shadows of the courtyard, unseen by all, the hunters watched, their red eyes glowing. They whispered in the dark, their voices sharp as blades. "The human survives, but he cannot survive forever. We will strike again." The war was far from over, and Ryan knew the trial was only the beginning. The trial of fire had ended. Ryan had survived, bloodied but standing, the golden crown still in his hands. The council had bowed to the old law, their masks hiding anger they could not show. The princess had stood tall beside him, her hand resting proudly on his arm. But peace did not last. The hunters had seen everything from the shadows, and they would not remain silent. That night, the palace ruins were lit with dim fires. Survivors gathered in the courtyard, whispering about the human who had walked through flames. Some saw him as chosen, others as cursed. Ryan ignored their stares, his body aching as he sharpened his knife under the stars. The princess sat close, repairing her armor with tools only she could command. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "You faced fire and lived. My people will never forget this. But the council will not forgive it either. You have embarrassed them." Ryan gave a faint smirk, though his eyes stayed sharp. "Wouldn't be the first time I've made powerful people angry." The princess's golden eyes met his, serious and heavy. "These counselors will not stop with words. They will send blades in the dark." As if her words summoned them, the night air shifted. The fires flickered, shadows moved unnaturally. Ryan's instinct screamed, his hand tightening on his rifle. "Get down," he growled. A blade of pure light cut through the air, striking where the princess had just been. Hunters dropped from the rooftops, their black armor gleaming under the moon. Their eyes glowed red, their movements swift and silent. They had returned, stronger, faster, deadlier. Ryan fired, the blast tearing through two of them, but more closed in, their blades clashing against his weapon. The princess raised her hand, golden light bursting into a shield. It blocked the first strikes, but the impact sent her stumbling back. The courtyard erupted in chaos, guards rushing forward. But the hunters were masters of death. Every swing cut down another soldier. Ryan fought with brutal precision, his blade flashing, his body moving like a man who had lived in war too long. Every strike he made was for survival, every block to protect the princess. One hunter leapt forward, knocking Ryan's rifle from his hands. The human gritted his teeth, drawing his knife. The hunter hissed, "You are nothing human." A mistake in her story. Ryan slammed the knife into the hunter's chest, sparks bursting as the creature fell. "Funny," he muttered. "You keep underestimating mistakes." But there were too many. The princess joined him, her shield burning brighter, her voice strong. "Together," she shouted. Ryan nodded, fighting back to back with her. Human steel and alien light, two forces moving as one. The hunters hesitated, just for a moment, at the sight of the bond. That moment cost them dearly. Ryan struck hard. The princess unleashed a wave of golden energy. 3 hunters fell at once, their bodies breaking apart like shadows in the wind. The survivors hissed, retreating into the darkness. Their leader, cloaked in black, raised a finger at Ryan. "This is not the end, human. We will hunt you until even your bones are ash." Then they vanished into the night, silent as ghosts. Silence returned to the courtyard. Bodies of guards and hunters lay scattered, the fires burning low. The survivors stared at Ryan and the princess. They had seen them fight together, and it was no longer just rumor. This human was truly her chosen. The princess placed her hand on his shoulder, her voice low but proud. "They will come again, stronger, but you stood with me, and that is enough." Ryan looked at her, his face tired but his voice steady. "They'll never stop, not until you're dead, which means we need to stop running and start fighting back." Her golden eyes brightened with fire. "You speak like a king," she whispered. Ryan shook his head with a half-smile. "Not a king, just a man who's tired of running." The princess turned to her people, her voice rising like thunder. "You all saw it. The hunters fear him, the council fears him. But I call him my consort, and with him I will reclaim what is ours." The crowd roared, their fear turning into a spark of hope. For the first time since the war began, they believed they could fight again. Ryan stood at her side, the weight of destiny heavy on his shoulders. He was no longer just a soldier lost in someone else's war. He was bound to her, bound to a cause greater than himself. And in the shadows beyond the stars, the hunters sharpened their blades. The final war was coming. The night after the hunters' attack, the ruins of the palace grew silent again. But silence was only the breath before the storm. Ryan knew it, the princess knew it, even the survivors felt it. The final strike was coming. Ryan stood on the broken wall of the courtyard, watching the horizon. The stars above were darkened by ships gathering in orbit. Enemy banners burned red in the night sky. They were not sending assassins this time. They were sending armies. The princess climbed the steps to stand beside him, her golden eyes glowing. "They come with everything they have," she said softly. "If we fall now, my people are lost forever." Ryan looked at her, his rifle heavy in his hands. "Then we don't fall. Not today." The council gathered in the courtyard, their jeweled masks shining in the firelight. They had little choice now. The human had won the trial, fought the hunters, and earned the people's trust. The eldest spoke coldly. "The enemy will crush us." Our armies are scattered. We cannot win. The princess stepped forward, her voice sharp as steel. Perhaps alone we cannot win, but we are not alone anymore. We have a human who faced the fire, a man who fought the hunters at my side. If he can stand, then so can we. All eyes turned to Ryan. He had never been a king, never been a leader, but war had taught him how to fight, and survival had taught him how to lead. He lifted his rifle and spoke simply. Your enemies think you're broken, but you're not. They think you're weak, but you're not. You've been waiting for a reason to fight, and here it is. So fight. Not for me, not even for her. Fight for yourselves. The survivors roared, their voices filling the night. Hope burned in their eyes again. For the first time, they believed they could rise. At dawn, the enemy came. Hundreds of ships darkened the skies, their weapons glowing. The ground shook as armored soldiers poured across the plains. The hunters marched at the front, their red eyes burning with hate. The princess stood on the walls, her armor glowing gold, the crown of fire resting on her head. Ryan stood beside her, his rifle ready, his scars hidden under steel. The defenders gathered behind them, wounded, tired, but ready. The first blast struck, shaking the earth. Ryan fired back, each shot dropping an enemy. The princess raised her hands, her shield expanding, protecting the walls. The hunters charged, blades flashing, their screams filling the air. The battle was chaos, fire and steel, light and blood. Ryan moved like a storm, his knife cutting when bullets ran dry. Every step he took was to protect the princess, every strike to keep her alive. The hunters came for him, recognizing him as the heart of her strength. But he did not fall. The princess fought at his side, her shield bursting with golden waves that shattered the enemy's ranks. Her people rallied behind her cry, "For the crown, for our future." The fight raged for hours, until the enemy unleashed their final weapon. A massive war machine rose from the plains, taller than the palace ruins. Its cannons glowed red, its steps shook the earth. The defenders froze, terror gripping them. Ryan stared at it, his breath sharp. He had seen human war machines like this, but never one so alien and powerful. He looked at the princess, her face pale, but her eyes strong. "Can your shield stop that?" he asked. She shook her head. Not for long. Ryan's mind raced. If the machine reached the walls, everything would be over. He took a deep breath, then handed his rifle to one of the guards. "Cover her," he said firmly. The princess grabbed his arm, fear in her eyes. "What are you doing?" Ryan gave a faint smile. "What I always do, fix the broken." Before she could stop him, he ran across the battlefield, weaving through fire and smoke. The machine fired, explosions tearing the ground, but Ryan kept moving. He climbed the wreckage of fallen carriers, leaping onto the machine's leg. His knife cut into wires, his hands pulling at gears. The machine roared, shaking violently. Ran to throw him off. The hunters saw him and rushed forward. But the princess raised her shield, blocking their path. Her voice rang across the battlefield. "He is mine. He is my consort, and he will not fall." Ryan reached the core, his hands burned, his body bleeding. He jammed his knife deep into the machine's heart. The energy pulsed, sparks erupted, and with a final roar, the war machine exploded. The blast shook the battlefield, fire tearing across the plains. Ryan was thrown to the ground, his body broken but alive. The princess rushed to him, her golden eyes filled with tears. "You fool," she whispered, holding him close. "You saved us again." The enemy, leaderless and broken, fled into the horizon. The hunters vanished into the shadows, their whispers promising revenge. But the battle was won. The survivors gathered, raising their voices in triumph. The princess stood before them, Ryan at her side, his body scarred but unyielding. "My people," she said, her voice strong, "today we rose from ashes. Today we proved that hope cannot be killed. And it was not I alone who gave you this victory. It was him, my consort, the human who stood when none else would." The crowd roared, bowing to her, And to him, Ryan met her gaze, tired but smiling. "I never asked for this," he muttered. The princess's golden eyes softened. "Perhaps not, but destiny asked for you." Together they stood on the ruined wall. A princess and a human, consort and protector. The galaxy had called humanity predators, destroyers. But now it would learn something else. That sometimes the most dangerous thing in the stars was not their strength, but their loyalty, and Ryan Carter had just proved it.